Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about writing numbers in different ways and using powers. And why do we need to write numbers in different ways? Well, because there are different things we want to do with our numbers. So without changing the value, we want it to look a different way. So some vocabulary that you're going to hear throughout this lesson are power, base, and exponent. Now, a power is a number like, we'll say 4, 2, 2, like that. And the entire thing is called a power. This whole thing right here. The big number is the base. And then that little number at the top is the exponent. Okay? So our first example says to write the expression using exponents. Well, exponents mean that little bitty number at the top. So first thing we want to do is identify what our base is going to be. Now, in this case, I have two different bases. I have some -2's here, and then I also have some 3's. Now, that means I'm going to have two different bases in my answer. I'm going to have a -2, and I'm going to have a 3. Now, how many -2's are there? Well, there are 3 of them. And how many 3's are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 of those. So the base -2 is a factor 3 times. That means there's 3 of those -2's. And the base 3 is a factor 4 times. There are 4 of those. So when we write them out, we end up with this base of -2 with an exponent of 3, and then a base of 3 with an exponent of 4. And we put the multiplication symbol between it because we still have to multiply those together. And I don't want to do anything else to it because it didn't say to evaluate it or find the number that it's equal to. Just said to rewrite it using exponents. Now, you'll notice that there are some parentheses here, and we want to make sure we get those parentheses around that because the -2 is what I have 3 times. If I don't have the negative there, what I end up with is something that looks like this. And that actually means something different. It means there's 3 2's, but it doesn't mean there's 3 -2's. And because my problem here had the -2 3 times, I want to make sure I get that in parentheses. All right, so let's try another example. Let me erase all of this. So write -9 times the -9 times -9 times whatever, -9's, and then 4. So I have two different bases again. I have a -9 base and I have a 4 base. So how many -9's do I have? Oh, that's better. Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. And then I have 3, 4. So again, I want to make sure I put my -9 in parentheses. -9. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. So 5. I'm going to keep my multiplication symbol. And then I have a base of 4. And I have 3 of those. So I'm going to write it like that. And that's it. All right. Now I can also have variables as my bases. So sometimes our bases aren't numbers at all, they're variables. But the rule still applies. It still just means a base and an exponent. So in this case, I have two different bases again. Use the properties of operations to write and group like bases together. The bases A is a factor 2 times, and the base B is a factor 3 times. So what that means is that I have two A's. I got one over here and one over here. So they're not next to each other, but that doesn't matter because remember, multiplication is commutative. I can move them around. It's not a big deal. And then I have 3 B's. One, oh, change that to red. 1, 2, 3 B's. So I'm going to have a base of A, and there are 2 A's. And then I have a base of B, and there are 3 B's. So they rewrote them. A squared times b squared. And that's how we would say that, a squared times b squared. And you can rewrite them in order like this if you would like to, or you can circle them or underline them. I'm all right with either one of those. Let's try another example. I thought there was another example. Oh, there it is. Okay. So here's my next example. And why don't you try this one, pause the video and see what answer you think it is, and then we will click up here and get what our final answer is. Okay, so the answer you should have gotten was x to the 4th y squared, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4 x's and 2 y's. And notice that these are being multiplied together. Right? X times x. When you're multiplying, this means or when you're doing exponents, this number means multiplied, not added. If those were plus signs, this wouldn't work because it wouldn't be the right thing. All right. Now, what if I have a fraction? Well, my exponent still means the same thing. It still means there's 3 of those, or 4 of those. So I would write it out this way, where I end up with 4 of these. And then if I wanted to evaluate it, which means to actually find its value, I would need to do the actual multiplication. So what is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2? Well, that's 16. And then 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 81. And then I have a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative. 4 negatives, that's an even number of negatives, so my answer is positive. So just like we multiplied fractions before, you just multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. All right, evaluate the expression. If a is 3 and b is 5, so a squared plus b to the 4th. Now, we've done these before. Remember, when you have a variable, we're going to make a little box. Remember our presents that we did. But this time we're going to put a little 2 up here in the top corner. And then a present for my b. And a 4. I know I can't write very well with this. So inside this box is a. Well, it tells me up here that a is 3, so I'm going to put a 3 in the box. And then it tells me up here that b is 5, so I put a 5 in this box. Okay, so a squared plus b to the 4th is the same as 3 squared plus 5 to the 4th. Now, once I have that written down, then I can actually do my evaluating. So what is 3 squared? Well, that's 3 times 3. And then there's a plus sign here, so I'm going to have a plus. And 5 to the 4th means 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. It does not mean 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. But if I work this out, 5 times 5 is 25. And 5 times 5 is 25. And then I got to multiply 25 times 25. So when you have a power like this, you need to make sure that you work it out. What you end up with is 625. Excuse me, for my 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. So 9 plus 625 is 634. Okay, and that's it.